If you don't enjoy awkward conversations about race relations in America, maybe skip this one. But if you do enjoy them, then dude, you gotta check this out. So I had a long conversation with Tim Johnson. If you don't know Tim, he is more commonly known as the Duet Ninja over on TikTok. That's where I came across him. And he's a Navy veteran. He is a former educator. And for the last few years, he has been working, doing voiceover work and developing educational materials. But he never stopped being involved in education, and he's very vocal about race relations. And he loves to get out there and teach people and expand on ideas and teach history. And it's just a fantastic thing to listen to him talk. I've learned so much from him. And we've talked before in the past. And this is one we decided to record and share with you guys. So, but I gotta tell you that this conversation, nothing is sacred, nothing is off limits. You know, there's no third rail subjects. We pretty much tackle just about everything, and it's very, very productive. And if you listen to my material, then you know that I get like way too deep sometimes. So, if you like that kind of thing, then check it out. So without further ado, here's Tim. Talk to you guys on the other side. Bye. So, hey Tim, how you doing, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Just day at a time, one day at a time.
Ugh, man, there's so much crazy. So you never stopped working during this whole COVID thing, right?
Nah, man. No, I'm an audio engineer and a voiceover talent. So whatever I can do remotely with whatever. I've been getting some mild podcast work. I have a steady podcast customer every week anyway, so I'm still working on that end. And I've gotten a little bit of some training modules that I record. I got a couple of those that leak through, but nothing major hits me from an e-learning standpoint until about September, October, November.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. This is normal for me.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, I didn't catch the fact, the last time we talked, I didn't catch that you did voiceovers. And then, I started looking at your website, and I'm like, damn, dude, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool gig.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for about 6 years now. 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. I fucking love it.
I never thought about it on, I never even thought about it at all until I started reading like the Tao Te Ching and all these other things that I do on TikTok. And, I do my podcast and just because I like to talk. But I've been getting all this feedback on TikTok of people saying, hey, I really love your voice. Your voice is really soothing. And I've had a couple people request that I do like guided meditations. So I've been recording guided meditations, and I looked up books that are in the public domain, and I'm doing recordings of those, just reading those, just to practice, because I think my voice is okay, but my diction my enunciation isn't as good as it could be. So I'm working on doing that,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That could be a pretty cool side hustle, right?
Yeah. It's going to take you a while to do it as a side hustle. But
really?
It can be done, especially now. Yeah, dude. It took me almost 3 years to get my first gig.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not what people think it is. Yeah, I mean, then there's a shitload of competition, especially now.
I know.
Because of this COVID thing, but hey, if you want to do audiobooks, things of that nature, there is not enough talent. There's not enough talent for that stuff.
Really?
So, heck yeah, dude. You can jump in there for sure. It's going to take a while for you to start really accumulating clients, but absolutely, you can throw yourself in there. Hell yeah.
Well, I enjoy doing it. So, I'm going to keep doing my podcast. I'm going to keep, going on YouTube. I'm going to keep doing all that kind of stuff. Just, I like to do it. And if something happens from it, then great,
Exactly.
But, because what's that Jordan Peterson always says that you have to start badly, and then,
Yes.
but you have to start, you know, and
Exactly.
it's like my mantra that perfection is the enemy of progress.
Absolutely.
So sometimes you just got to throw some shit on a plate and hope nobody dies.
It goes. I mean, seriously, no, there is no perfect plan. There is no perfect plan.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So hey man, I got two questions I want to ask of you today.
Yeah.
I want to pick your brain about. Well, three, but only two of them are for the that'll be like recorded. So, well, I mean, I guess it'll all be recorded, but whatever. I'm mumbling.
All right.
So here's two questions. One is about I had a conversation with a TikToker who responded to me saying that talking about whitewashing and how she feels like, and it became evident through the text conversation that she is a student and feels a lot of pressure from her peers. So I want to ask you about that. And then I also have a question about, I kind of had a realization lately as I'm going through this process of learning, and I've told you that I feel like I'm a recovering racist, you know? And one of the things that I'm learning that doesn't seem to be out there anywhere is that it's okay to just be who you are, and it's okay to not love everything about every other culture.
Yes.
You know, and so I want to kind of unpack that with you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So let me just, I'll touch on whitewashing mantra real quick. For your listeners, if you don't know what whitewashing is, basically a metaphor for, glossing over things, but it also can be a cultural term in terms of, quote unquote white culture kind of overriding or assimilating or whatever with everything else and claiming it as their own. It's a term that's really not indicative of what's truly the situation, in my opinion. Whitewashing, I mean, it's you're watering down so much that's going on in terms of cultural appropriation, cultural assimilation, nationality, and the separation of white, black, whatever. There's so much involved in that, and just calling it whitewashing, it doesn't do justice, in my point of view. One should always be aware of what their culture is, right? And that could be in a small pocket, like your community, your county, your town, whatever. So that is your culture, whatever you want to say, because that's what you're in contact with the most, especially in the early days of your life. And then it spreads out into, your state and your nation. Of course, I'm talking about the United States. Your state, your nation, your region, whatever. So whitewashing, it really depends on the individual that's saying that. Because in my point of view, it doesn't do any justice for anybody just to say whitewashing. What do you mean, right? Like what angle are you taking here? Are you being critical? Are you being quote unquote racist? What is going on here? And that's my point of view about whitewashing.
Who was the guy in the Fresh Prince? Who did the crazy dance?
Which one?
He did the crazy dancing and stuff like that, and he was all.
Oh, Carl.
What was it?
Carlton.
Carlton. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when somebody talks about whitewashing, I picture Carlton.
Doing the dance.
Yeah, just kind of being not cool and, like wearing white clothes and getting an education and not, like learning like good diction and all those sorts of things. Do you see that's what I envision.
So quote unquote white.
Yeah, that's how I'm picturing it. Like what do they call it? Like an Oreo? Like you're black on the outside, but you're white on the inside, kind of thing.
years. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
No, like there's it's a
like, you know.
It's a Klondike bar. A Klondike bar. That's what it was.
There you go. Yeah. I get you.
But am I misunderstanding that term though?
From my point of view, so that whitewashing is not really. You're not really. So as I mentioned before, whitewashing can be, you know, from that standpoint, whitewashing is you know, an individual who doesn't want to be anything other than, you know, a Western cultural individual. So everything is predicated on the white experience, so to say, even though you're black or whatever. From that point of view, and there's also another point of view from a historical point of view of what is called quote unquote whitewashing. When I first heard of the term, it was in relation to what happened in Egypt to the Sphinx and to a lot of the Egyptian monuments and things of that nature. You notice that the nose was broke off or knocked away, and the lips were knocked away, but everything else was pristine. You know, it was just certain features that were quote unquote wiped away. So one wouldn't even think that the quote unquote African culture were the the founders or the builders of said monuments and things of that nature. So basically, and that happened. Of course, that happened mostly during World War I, early 1900s. This is after, you know, the whole eugenics thing kicked off and things of that nature. So, and that from a historical standpoint, that was my ideology of what whitewashing was. Now, from a cultural standpoint, as you mentioned, again, I mean, that is something that happens quite a bit. That one would say Candace Owens has been whitewashed in that term, and some other, you know, especially Republican, black folks. A lot of people who are on the other side of the aisle would say they're being whitewashed in a way.
But some you could say that some aren't, though. I mean, some still embrace like a lot of things about black culture, but they lean more conservative. You know, like there's another fellow that I follow that he's like that. He very much embraces his black culture, but he's a Republican, and but he's also not what's the word? He's not part of the Trump cult, if you will. He's not. He doesn't have that version of the Trump derangement syndrome, where you either absolutely love him or you absolutely hate him. You know, he's kind of like, he's kind of an idiot sometimes, but you know, let's be conservative and you know, and that's what I mean. So I don't really see him so much as being whitewashed so much.
Gotcha.
Is that a fair view? Do you think?
Absolutely. That's why I said it really doesn't do justice to the underlying occurrences that come under that label of whitewashing. I mean, because like you just said, man. I mean, it points to an individual, and then there's other individuals just like that fella that have their conservative point of view, their Republican point of view, but they don't necessarily reject who they are from a ethnic standpoint. And I respect people like that, man. It is hard as hell to be who you are in this world.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard enough without people trying to jam you in a corner. You know.
That's why I'm like, I hate being pigeon-toed, man. Don't put me in that pigeonhole, bro. No.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like let me be me. I'll let you be you, and you let me be me. And
precisely.
If I'm an asshole, let me know, and I'll adjust fire. But that's it.
Right. In a respectful manner, you know. Don't be you can cuss me out. You know, if I'm out of line, okay, like, dude, hey, you know, you might not want to say X, Y, and Z. You know, there's a way about going about things, man. You know.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, getting back to the conversation I had with that other TikToker. Well, she's not a TikToker, I don't think. She doesn't have any content or a profile picture or anything like that, but she was very vocal and intelligent and opinionated, and I had a great text conversation with her. But like I mentioned, she was it seemed like she was a high schooler, and I kept asking her if, and maybe I used the wrong term, but I asked her if there were any significant people in her life who used the term whitewashing, and I broke that down as meaning like a teacher or a parent or a janitor or somebody besides Joe and Tina at school. You know what I mean? Who are in some position of authority, who've been to school, who've had some life experience, who use that phrase. Do you know what I'm getting at? And she of course couldn't provide any examples or wouldn't. I don't know. But I mean, it seems like from where I'm standing, that's kind of like a high school thing, right? Like by the time you're done with high school and you're done trying to figure out your identity and weird hormones, then you stop worrying about that, or am I misunderstanding that too?
Well, it depends. But yeah, I would definitely say that it comes from a youthful mindset. Because they haven't experienced much, and I'm really glad that you asked her about the influential people in her life that are of adult age and older. Elder statesmen and whatnot, because that would be more disheartening for me if I heard that. Yeah, my dad said that. Yeah, my grandfather says that. Yeah, my uncle says that. Yeah, I'll be like, damn, what the hell's going on?
What world are you living in? If your teacher tells you to stop, don't learn to speak English because you're going to become whitewashed, then I'm like, maybe that teacher needs a new job.
Exactly. I mean, damn, come on now. You need to have a profound understanding of the English language, considering that's basically the language of the world now at this point.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would be more disheartened if that was the case. But it seems like it comes from a youthful mindset. A case where somebody hasn't traveled or they haven't really experienced anything where they had to make critical decisions, especially based on who they are and who another person is and the culture they live in, and they probably don't even know anything about government or anything on that level. So it seems like it is from a mindset that is that hasn't been related to anything of that stature, i.e. culture, and understanding culture outside of an 18-year-old's mind. Because there's levels to that shit.
Yeah.
Definitely levels to it.
I mean, I can imagine too that just as you're talking, I'm thinking about my own high school experiences, and even though I'm a crusty old white guy with gray hair in my beard, there are still things about my high school experience that influence me.
Yes.
And influence my thinking. Because those are such formative years.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, yeah.
So,
gosh, yeah. I mean, you go ahead, man.
So here's a deep thought for you. And I like this literally just occurred. I have not spent any time unpacking this, so you're about to get a little bit of like Sean's brain dump all over your lap. So hang on. This might get ugly, but is it possible? Is it possible that a lot of the problems that we have, well, I think I now I see the answer to this. A lot of the problems that we have in the country just go back to like high school culture, which is heavily influenced by hip hop culture and those sorts of things, rap culture and whatnot. But then also influenced by wealth inequality and inner city values and all these other sorts of complications that come along with it. Could that be part of the challenge that we're facing right now?
Yeah. I mean, that's all a part of a greater landscape that is American culture.
Right.
So you and I are old enough. We understand what it was like back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Right. Shit was a lot different.
Way different.
It was a lot different. So, especially from an entertainment standpoint, not. I mean, And you can go down the line. You can go from movies. You can go to music. You can go to theater. You can go to poetry. So much was different then. And especially from a technology standpoint, right? I mean, if a new album came out, you had to wait.
I know.
You had to get that shit. Now, a new album drops, boom, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. I mean, it's all over the damn place. SoundCloud, And, you know, the access to things. I don't think the human brain has actually caught up to how fast and how much content can hit a child, especially a high schooler. I mean, there's negatives, positives to that, obviously, but I think the negative outweighs the positive in that regard. And what I mean by that is you don't have we don't have 20 or 30 or 40-year-olds who grew up with, you know, high-speed internet. We haven't gotten there yet. So there's nobody there to be like, you know, you should look at it this way, this way, this way, so it doesn't overload you. You should have this and this around you, so you won't understand what to believe and what not to believe. And on top of all that, you still have, you know, going to the inner city, you still have a high concentration of crime in impoverished areas, and things of that nature, and even with what we have today in terms of technology, nobody's really nobody's really controlling the narrative of why we still have these pockets. People go to hip hop for it. People go to movies. People go to books and things of that nature. But that's the end result, right? These things must happen in order for people to write music about it, in order to write stories about it, in order to, you know, do any of these things. These things still have to happen. So why haven't we not conquered that as a country, knowing the ramifications that come from that? Glorifying gang violence, things of that nature. That's not nothing new. But what went on in what went on in Compton and in South Central Los Angeles back in the mid to late '80s, you know, people on the East Coast wouldn't hear about it that much, right? But now, let's say that the Crips and Blood gang were at each other's throats like they were in the mid '80s.
Oh my God, it'd be everywhere.
Everywhere, daily. You'd be all over YouTube. I mean, they'll be doing drive-bys, Facebook Live. Hell, they do that now in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, imagine, right? So it's we know what's going on. Now we have all this technology that pumps it even more at a higher rate, 24/7, and these kids can get a hold of it. It's almost like you're swimming, you know, upstream, you know, with a lead weight on your feet, man. In terms of people trying to fix this shit, because there's so much that keeps coming at us, you know, because I want to fix things like this. It doesn't have to be this way. So yeah, I mean, I see where you're going with the hip hop culture and things of that nature, but hip hop culture exists because of the inner city culture that it came from. Without that culture, nothing. I'm not even sure hip hop would have existed. It definitely has changed in terms of the output. When I was listening to hip hop growing up, you know, it was Rakim, LL Cool J, Big Daddy Kane. These individuals were scholarly compared to the kids these days, right?
I remember. Yeah. I went through my a Run DMC and LL Cool J phase. You know, I was wearing like Adidas with no laces, and you know. I went, and you know, but it was like a really dorky white guy with a bad hat and an Adidas shirt, and you know, but I had some white Adidas with green stripes, and I love those things, and I wore them everywhere with no laces in them. It used to make my dad so crazy, and yeah, and I always had LL and I don't remember Run DMC and I don't know if you named a couple others from that era. I was like, yeah, I had all those guys. But
Beastie Boys and you know Fat Boys and you know.
The Fat. How about it? How can I forget the Fat Boys?
Come on, man.
Salt and Pepper.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean,
but,
Heavy D and the Boys.
So have you seen this guy who he did a TED Talk? His name's Michael Smith, and he's a pastor of a church. I want to somewhere down south. I'd have to look it up, but he's a white guy, and he became a pastor and got assigned to this church, and he was the only white guy. And, so they just called him. His name is Mike Smith, and there were several other Mike Smiths in the church. So he just got called Pastor White Mike. And he was White Mike, so everybody knew, like, oh, the White Mike. Okay, got it. But he does a TED Talk where he talks about music. He talks about the music, and his premise is that black culture is the only culture that allows music that celebrates murdering other people within your own culture. Like, you can't. There's no country music stations that are talking about, hey, Eddie and Sylvia had a fight, so I, took out my AK down to the Dixie line and shot her in the face, or whatever, And hang on. What are you doing? What do you want? What do you... my dog just decided that she wants to come in and hang out with me. What's the matter? So she's like scratching at the door, and then she just runs freaking out like she hasn't seen me in all day. I'm right here, it's just me. What are you doing? Anyway.
Totally understand. I totally understand.
Ugh. Anyway, but I didn't want her scratching on the door, but now she's being obnoxious in here. Usually she just comes in and sleeps in her bed, but apparently... Go lay down. What are you doing? Anyway. Sorry. Yeah, I thought I'd just let her in quietly, but then she was going nuts. Anyway, so there goes that plan. What I was talking about with this Mike Smith, though, is that his idea, though, is that, this is something that has been, which ties me into my theory that I would like to end this conversation with, is that there are things that have been weaponized against the black community.
Yes.
And the music is one of them.
I say yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yes and yeah. So the reason I say yes, obviously, is because, and this goes back to what I said earlier about American culture, it's a glorification of violence as a whole anyway. And you're right, there's no country music song that does that. But there are some serious liquid metal.
Yeah, I guess that is true.
There's some serious shit out there, but I totally understand. Like you mentioned country music. Well, if you look at your basic, R&B, especially old school R&B, nobody talking about shit on people.
No,
none of that.
It's all about trying to get laid.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe that's not fair, but it was more geared towards gently making love to somebody you deeply care about, or maybe hitting on the girl at the bar,
Yeah, or dancing or something like that.
Yeah.
Hip hop. I'll give you my point on hip hop as a whole. Anyway, hip hop culture was also stolen in a way. Like as you mentioned, it's been hijacked. It's been manipulated to where it absolutely glorifies a particular type of lifestyle for men and women in the black community. There is no denying that. Luckily, there's still parents out there who grew up in the 80s and the 90s that still listen to the old hip hop, and they can give their kids hopefully they can give their kids and their kids' friends, cousins, whatever, that this is what it used to be, this is what it is now. Compare contrast. A lot of these kids don't get that because kids are having kids and there's no time for that interaction to occur. So it's a compound issue. That's why I say yes, because there's nobody there to guide them, especially with the bullshit they're putting out today on hip hop. You have two artists that I know of that are really kind of in the cultural understanding of what it is to be black in America and how to overcome it, as opposed shit out for them, and they have to get an okay before they go out there and say something, or they're gonna lose a lot of money. They redone the contracts that these artists have to do now, where it's even more constrictive than it used to be, almost. Unless you're just a major artist like Jay-Z or something, and you can basically just have your own platform. Everybody else has to use Spotify and iTunes, all those other things, just to get people to listen to them. And record labels, yeah, they might sign, they might not. But if I had to give advice to people, I would say not to sign with a record label, so you can bring truth to your music. Hopefully, you're not gonna bring a bunch of bullshit, because there's enough of that out there. And I'll be honest with you, Sean. I think it's fizzling out, to be honest with you. But I don't hang around kids like I used to, so it's hard for me to say that now. But yes, hip hop music and hip hop culture has done a bad, so to say. But then I also have to say no, because it's almost like it was planned to happen. So I question the motive of what hip hop is today.
Well, can you unpack that a little bit? What do you mean it was planned?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean it was planned?
So
'cause you got my conspiracy theory, senses tingling now, man.
It's not a conspiracy, brother. I wish it was.
It's like my spidey senses, I'm waiting for the bad guy to jump out of the woodwork at me.
That's the thing, though. I mean, it's not. You'll never see that. It's like occurrences that happen over a decade to make one look at a situation like, why in the world would it shift like that? Right? And look at the ramifications of said switch. You'll see it. Okay, so like in the early 80s, mid-early 80s, when hip-hop was really starting to gain traction, was it the Sugar Hill Gang, and, you had the old groups, Male and Male, Cool Herc, before KRS-One. It was all about partying, right? Mm-hmm. People went out. I mean, there was a time where you had gangs tussling on the streets of New York and Jersey and all these other cities and stuff, things of that nature. But it wasn't like all out mob violence, like people getting gunned down on the side of the road, right? You had little pockets. You had people who live on this street, and you had this crew on this street, and every once in a while they get together after high school, and they'll throw hands, or something, or whatever.
But that goes on with every group, though. I mean, like the Italians do that, and everybody. When when your testosterone levels get high, fists fly through the air. That's just human nature, right?
Exactly, but human nature can be controlled and manipulated by propaganda. That's why you see communities of the Italian communities and the Jewish communities. Like you mentioned, all these communities have these instances, especially when they're younger, when these things happen. But it happens more frequently, and it continues to happen, and at a higher rate and at a more lethal rate in the black community. That's what I'm saying. Like the switching of what hip hop began and what it is now, that occurred at a high level. That didn't occur on the streets, man.
So you don't think that's organic?
Absolutely not.
You think that's deliberate?
It was deliberate for a period of time until it had its own wheels, and then it just kept going. It's in straight auto mode right now.
So what you're saying is that somebody brought the car to the top of the hill and pushed it a little bit until it got some momentum, and then just walked away, kind of.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
And now it's just like a runaway car.
Yeah. And it's a runaway car not because people are unable to do something about it. They're not willing to do anything about it. And that's not outside the black.
Okay.
That's not outside of the community. That's inside the black community.
Okay, so there's a couple people in the car. Somebody pushed it down over the hill, but inside the car they're fighting about whose responsibility it is to put on the brakes.
There you go.
They're like, man, I ain't touching them brakes. I ain't touching that steering wheel. They're like, you're the one. That was all you, man. So they're just sitting in the back arguing while the car is plummeting down the hill.
Exactly. And I'll say this too: the person behind the steering wheel that has the ability to pull on the brakes, they have a deal with the person who pushed the car in the first place.
Oh, and they're like, man, I got an airbag. I'm gonna be fine.
Exactly. They got an airbag. They got insurance. They're not worried about whenever they crash. They're good because they'll be the ones that survive the crash, not everybody else in the fucking car.
Right. And they're too busy to put their seatbelts on, and assume the crash position because they're too busy fighting over whose fault it is.
Yes. The person in the passenger seat and the people in the back are all arguing about where are they going and when are they going to put their foot on the brake.
Right.
But they're not talking to the person driving the car. They're talking to each other.
So meanwhile, the judge.
They're looking out the window. They're looking out the window, blaming everybody else too.
Right. And
look at the person driving the fucking car.
Meanwhile, the guy in the driver's seat is rolling a joint with $100 bill.
Hell yeah, chilling.
Because he's fine.
Oh yeah, he's fine. He's good. I got all kind of measures that'll make me okay when we crash.
God.
Everybody else, but you're shit out of luck.
That is so wrong.
And if you look at the music in hip hop, dude, if you look at the music, it will show you the transition. It started around the time NWA came out.
Yeah.
That's when the transition started to slowly shift. Because hip hop started in New York, and that's where you had some of the greatest MCs of all time came out of New York City. Like I mentioned, KRS-One, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J. These guys were literary poets, man. These guys wrote their own stuff. It was so enlightening, and they were almost raised by the Black Panther Party, not in a militant standpoint, but from an educational standpoint. How to open the mind and to see the world from a black perspective that wasn't contrary to being subjugated to ignorance, right? You stood like a man and you saw the world as a man, and you enveloped it in that way. And then you try to help others see that same point of view, so we can come together as a planet. And that's one of the reasons why hip hop became worldwide like it did, because that was the foundation of it.
No. Okay. So sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but something just clicked. Something just clicked. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, sorry. So the way that I'm interpreting this is that these aren't my words. This is the system, or whatever it is. This is the phrase that comes from the system, is that you goddamn black folks went and tried to do something good again, so we're gonna fuck it up.
Yeah, sure. I hate to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, we are gonna weaponize this shit against you because you went and tried to do something good again.
Yeah. And by God, it worked to perfection.
Interesting.
Do you remember the East Coast, West Coast beef?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tupac and Biggie were best friends. They were best friends before Tupac got shot up the second time in New York. They were best buds. Biggie used to sleep on his couch.
Huh. So,
but somehow,
So this brings me to my other theory, and I know you've seen this. You and I haven't talked about this, but I'm sure you've seen this. Where I'm saying that the phrase, because of the color of his skin, has been weaponized against the black community in particular. Have you heard my theory on that?
I think you made a couple of videos on that, didn't you?
I've got like 100 videos on that.
Refresh my memory, dude.
Okay, so yeah, people keep trying to unpack it and poke holes in it, and I'm like, no, I think I might be onto something here. And because it's a subtle thing. Because my premise is that if I say that a girl, let's say Susie, gets dressed up on a Friday night, and she's looking cute in a hot little dress, and she smells nice, and she goes to a frat party and has a little bit to drink, and gets raped. We could say, and we used to say, well, then it's her own fault for wearing that cute dress.
Yeah.
And that's problematic, we know now, because that's called victim blaming.
Yes.
So, but for some reason, it's perfectly fine to say George Floyd was killed because of the color of his skin. And my premise is that's victim blaming. And I'm trying to turn that around and say no. Yes, the cop saw that he was a black man. Yes, the cop was racist. Yes, there's some truth that it was because of the color of his skin. Just like there's some truth to the fact that, Susie shouldn't have gone to the frat party and gotten drunk in a sexy little dress. Because, but George didn't have any choice being born into that skin. And he was put into an economic system that didn't give him any choice. Susie had a choice to go to that party or not. And yet we are adamant that we have to defend Susie against victim blaming in a scenario where she had decisions to make. George had no decisions to make. And yet we still victim blame him. Do you see what I mean? So the language that I'm trying to get people to change is to say, stop saying that George was killed because of the color of his skin, and start saying that George was killed because the cop was a psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
And George is killed because the cop works for a psychopathic system.
Yeah.
And put the blame where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
So part of but there's more. So and this is the part where I'd like your feedback too. And I had a really good conversation with the original Silver Fox about this too, because part of what that does, just from a linguistic point of view, is, and you can appreciate this as somebody who's all about language, is that when I say that George Floyd was killed because of the color of his skin, it does two things. First, it gives tacit permission to the white oppressor, to the Caucasian cop, to commit oppression. And it gives an implied mandate to the person of color that they then have to receive the oppression. And it's all happening on a subconscious level. And what got me thinking about this was a friend of my wife has a little girl. She's 9, and her dad's black and her mom's white, and she's just like, you would love this kid. She is the most beautiful and talented and intelligent. I mean, she sings and she dances and she does art, and she's 9 and she's debating me on philosophical points. I mean, this kid is like,
wow.
Oh my God, this kid is a genius, right? And gorgeous, and just like drop dead gorgeous. She's gonna kill people walking down the street, this kid, and there's gonna be like traffic accidents and planes falling out of this guy. and like, when she realized that, God, I get fucking choked up thinking about this.
Oh man.
When she realized that George Floyd was killed because of the color of his skin, you could see a switch flip. You can see it in her body language, you can see it in her face, you can see it in everything. She just fucking shut down. Because she made that association. Oh, they did that to him because of the color of his skin. I've got the same skin color. So now I have to be careful because of the color of my skin. And but that's the evil trick that it plays. And that kind of ties into the whole thing that I was saying, where the music has been weaponized and like all this other kind of thing, and this phrase that's been around since what, like the 50s or 60s maybe,
Yeah.
has been weaponized against the black community. Dude, if you could hear just the difference in this girl.
I hate that, man. I hate that she had to see that shit.
Yeah.
I hate that.
And the thing is, yeah, and I'm one white guy who's, talking to one mixed girl.
Mm-hmm.
So like what are all these other, black moms and dads seeing with their own kids? And here's my other question is that can they even see it because they live so far down deep in it already?
Ooh, buddy. Yeah, you touched on something right there. That's what makes it subconscious. And then you have to look at the person or you have to look at the person and the reality and their perception of knowing that instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it's going to make them hate or it's going to make them hate themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's a whole. I mean, so that can really screw with people's heads. And then you start treating people who look like you as that which you perceive yourself to be.
Yes. Yes. Keep going down that rabbit hole, man. That's yes.
It's dangerous, man. And I'll tell you, dude, there are a number of psychological terms and conditions that apply to that ideology or that instance or that reality that you spoke of. But there hasn't been a lot of research done.
No.
So we're kind of like we said earlier, just throwing shit and hope it sticks. That's how we're doing. That's how the world of psychology is doing Black Americans right now. Well, I should say Black folks all over the planet right now. How society has shaped their mind not only in terms of how they perceive their environment, but how they perceive themselves within said environment.
Exactly.
And how they perceive others who look like them, even though they don't have anything to do with them.
Thank you very much. Yes.
There's a whole lot we don't know, but we do know. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're scratching the surface. But like you said, that rabbit hole is about 200 to 300 meters deep.
That rabbit hole went all the way to China, man. It's a infinite rabbit hole.
Infinite.
How far down you want to go?
Ooh. We can go a long way, man. That's why I'm glad the world of psychology is starting. They're starting to do more research and more stuff on especially young black minds and how they perceive and their cognition of the world.
Yeah. So let me throw another idea at you.
Yeah.
Because this one kind of goes in tandem with that. And this is something I have not found any research on this whatsoever. This is strictly a Sean's World idea. There may be other folks thinking about this, but I can't find them. But I didn't look that hard, honestly, because I'm not a sociologist. But I believe that part of what we see with racism and colorism and all this other kind of thing that people are up in arms against, I think is part of our evolutionary psychology. Because all the way back through human history, as long as there have been humans who perceived other humans, and as long as there have been governments and people of royalty or aristocracy or nobility or anything like that, the people who were out in the sun all day were the working class folks. And the people who were in the palace or in the castle or in the not in the sun places were the aristocracy.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, the working class people had darker skin.
Yeah.
And so therefore, in my hypothesis, having lighter skin then becomes something to be aspired to.
Mm-hmm.
But where this breaks down is that it's not necessarily the lighter skin, because we see white folks who want to go get tans and stuff like that. So what I see instead is that the color of the skin does two things on a psychological level to humans. One is that it signifies your cultural, financial, political status. Well, it does that, but it does it in two different ways. The initial way is to say, if you have darker skin, you are therefore lower class. However, if you're obviously a Caucasian person and you have darker skin, then you obviously have a lot of leisure time and money to go tanning. So it comes down to like working class versus leisure class in my mind, not necessarily aristocracy. You know what I mean? Because that way you can do it like within the same population. You know, like I may have time to go to the tanning booth, you know, and I'll get a great tan. People will be like, man, Sean, he's got some money. You know, he's got some time on his hands. He looks so healthy. You know, he drives a nice car and whatnot. But because it has more to do with the perception of your socioeconomic class that we at an evolutionary level apply based on skin color. So then take that idea and pair it with the phrase because of the color of his skin. And there's a whole other rabbit hole for you.
Interesting. So by the phrase, you're talking about whitewashing, right?
No. The phrase of because of the color of his skin or her skin.
Oh,
you know, so and so was, you know, profiled. So and so was arrested. So and so was murdered. So and so was discriminated. Whatever it is, because of the color of his or her skin, is the specific phrase that I think needs to be eradicated from English language. In the way that it's used. We need to change the usage of that. Yeah.
I got you. That's a unique perspective, man. I like that actually because like you said, you're trying to pinpoint the causation, the true causation.
Yeah.
It's not skin tone. It's the individual who is applying said perception on these individuals and thrusting their ideology on these individuals based on what they look like.
Correct.
So it's not what they look like, it's what you perceive them to be because they look that way.
Yeah. Yes.
I got you.
Yes.
I got you.
And
dude.
Which leads so did it convert somebody? All right. I'm in.
We'll find that. and that comes back to propaganda, man. It does. The music, the poetry, the movies, the TV shows.
Everything.
All these things. Yeah, heck yeah, dude. Think about it. Were you watching TV back in the 70s?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Can you say a black, when you saw a black character on television, they were one of three things? You know what I'm saying? There was no diversity to that skin tone, quote unquote. You were either the help, you were the criminal, or you were the sage, the wise individual.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, that was all you got. Or maybe the slave, you know, because Roots came out at that time period. Yeah. Yeah. So you weren't you know, the head of the home or you know some type of authority. Not head of the home. There were people who were. I mean, you had the good times, Jefferson City, shit like that. But you weren't necessarily empowered, right? You weren't giving. You weren't wielding any kind of power on TV networks, and it got worse, not better. It got worse as you went through the 90s and to the early 2000s. There were no serious family shows on Black America on television after the Cosby Show. And you could argue that the Cosby Show wasn't even.
That was extraneous. You're right. That was an outlier.
It was like a nice white family who happened to be black.
Yeah. It was something to strive for as opposed to it being the norm.
And they had Denise, you know, and she kind of kept it real. But other than that, you know, and I guess Mrs. Huxtable too. She had like the attitude and like the head thing back, you know, but like.
Right, but she was extremely intelligent.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, extremely intelligent, but she can whip out that attitude quick.
Do you know any black women who don't do that well? I haven't met one yet.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, they're out there, bro. There's some black women or I've met, came across, coached. They're pacifists. You know, they don't have that in them. That's why black women, you know, when it comes to the getting medical care, they're seen as having a higher tolerance of pain, and you know, this and the third. It's propaganda. It's a perception issue.
So wait a minute. Are you saying that Mrs. Huxtable is a harmful stereotype?
Dum.
No, like, seriously.
Dum. No, harmful. I won't say it's harmful, but I think it kind of discredits her posture as an intelligent was she a lawyer?
Yeah.
In that show?
Yeah.
It takes away from that element. Yes.
Wow.
It does. I mean, but why does she have to get all soul sister and at the same time be a lawyer? Why can't she just be a lawyer and just be a lawyer?
Yeah. I mean, we saw it because Kamala Harris pulled that, and now she's not going to be the president of the United States. You know? Kamala tried to be black instead of just being a politician.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, we're not impressed with that. Is that maybe what happened? Well, I mean, Kamala had her own problems, but, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, her problem was she tried to prosecute parents for not having their kids go to school.
Yeah, and she kept people in jail longer than their term so they can fight forest fires. That wasn't helpful. And she locked people away for marijuana offenses and then laughed about having smoked marijuana. Yeah, and
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Black folks don't like hypocrites, man. We don't like hypocrites.
Yeah. Then why do white folks seem to have a higher tolerance for that? Like, how do we?
It depends. I've seen this too, bro. Because Trump is a huge hypocrite.
He's
huge.
Yeah.
But they giving him chances over and over and over and over. Oh, they make up every excuse in the book for that guy. Let it be Obama. It's a whole other world. But I mean, politicians. That's a funny field to mess with anyway. When you talk about hypocrisy, they're all hypocrites.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's that tribalism, I guess, bro.
So let me get back to one of the. So at the beginning, I wasn't even going to talk about any of this kind of stuff, but there was two questions that I brought up. One was about the whitewashing, and the other one was about culture. You know, it was this. So this is one of the things I want to unpack with you a little bit because it's something I've been realizing, and I've been trying to find a way to vocalize this. Because I know that a lot of people are sensitive to this. And like with my own kids, you know, when I tell my kids that I'm a recovering racist, they get so mad. They're like, "No, you can't be a racist. That's, you know, that's horrible and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, you know, I'm also a recovering alcoholic." You know, I'm like you know, you have to acknowledge the problem before you can move forward, right?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, but one of the things that I've come to realize is that, like, you can. How do I phrase this? It's okay to not appreciate or not even like things about other cultures, but then learn how to not let that turn into hatred. So for example, there's this one guy that I follow on TikTok, and he's fantastically intelligent. He's very articulate. He leans way further to the left than I do, but just like the way he speaks and his hair and his mannerisms, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know. He just irritates me for some reason, you know. And it's the same thing with people who are like flamboyantly gay, you know. It's like, okay, but God, you just irritate the shit out of me. But okay, it's fine. Yeah, but you know what I mean. And
yeah.
But the thing is, what I've had to learn is that there's a difference between having that emotion, like like I used to tell the story of a guy that I supervised, but who was like, he's a giant black dude, and before I knew him, before I supervised him, I'd see him around, and he always carried himself as like the stereotypical black dude, you know, like he wore his hat a little bit cockeyed with the flat brim, and you know, drove, I forget what kind of car he drove, but it was very, you know, what you'd expect, and the music that he listened to and the way he spoke and everything, and I was just like, God, this guy just like irritates the shit out of me. And but then I became his boss, and I got to know him on a personal level, and this motherfucker is hands down the most intelligent human being I've ever come across in my life.
Wow.
Like, yeah, once you got him alone and he like kind of took all that stuff and set it aside, he could dazzle anybody. He was so smart. The stuff that he could do and his work ethic and he became an absolute pleasure to be around. And that was when I started seeing like all those things that still irritate me about, you know, like the R&B culture and the black culture and all this kind of stuff, and started saying, maybe there's a fucking genius underneath that and I'm being a dick. You know, and yeah, but it was, the thing that I wanted to kind of unpack with you a little bit and get your perspective on this is like, there's a difference between acknowledging that irritation with black culture, Jewish culture, Asian culture, pick a culture, white culture, finding that irritation, but then letting that irritation blossom into hatred.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Absolutely.
like if you get a rock in your shoe, you can take it out, or you can leave it in there and get an infection.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think it's a choice that people make? They choose not to deal with it and they're just comfortable with their stereotype, therefore they don't try to figure out or find out more about the individual?
Yeah. I mean, I never would have gotten to know this guy. I would have avoided him like the plague. Never would have had a conversation with him. I would have said, you know, he would have just always been in my mind that fucking guy. Until I had to supervise him and get to know him, and then hear about his family struggles and his worries about his kids and his, you know, relationship with his mom and educations, you know, and get to know him like as a person. But I was forced to. But not everybody's gonna get that. Like, who, you know, if you're not in the military and you live in, you know, East Badovia, Kentucky or whatever, how are you ever gonna put yourself into a situation like that? You know, so the only thing I can think of is to say, hey, that thing that you're feeling that feels like hatred, it might just be irritation. It might only be a rock in your shoe that's been in your shoe for too long.
I like that. So what's going to force that individual to stop walking, take the shoe off, get the damn rock out, put the shoe back on, and you know,
Yeah.
let it heal.
Yeah, let it heal. You know, maybe you need some ointment. You know, maybe it's been going on a long time. You know?
Interesting.
Maybe we need to get you some new shoes. I don't know the solution. You know? I don't know what's really bothering you. But chances are, we know it's you. You know?
It might be the path they're walking in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you're trying to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops. You know? Like,
Exactly. You know, I don't know what's going to make people. Damn, see, that's the thing though. It's like we're at this time in the United States where more and more people are starting to realize the people who live in this country with them. You know, segregation did such a great job of splitting people up and not allowing people to communicate, to realize that we have more in common than not.
yeah.
Right? So it's, as those borders, those you know, preconceived cultural borders start to go away, then
Yeah.
You know, if we just allow the status quo to do things and just go about things as we have allowed it to do for over the past, since the last civil rights bill was written was signed, we're not going to get anywhere because the propaganda machine, which is mainstream media and a lot of these other media outlets, not just television or news, but music, so forth, movies. If we allow them to dictate the culture or dictate the conversation, so to say, we're not going to get to the truth, because the truth comes from interacting with people on a personal level, as you mentioned. That's where you get the truth from. Yeah. That's where you get those layers start to peel away, and you really get to the truth of something, right? And that's where the comfort level lies, is understanding somebody to the point where you can respect them. You know? And that's going to be extremely hard to do at this point. But as I said, man, dude, people starting to connect. Thank God for social media to a point. There's still a bunch of idiots out there, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But the social media has helped. It has sped up the process a little bit, not a lot, a little bit. But I think going forward we're gonna have more relationships like the one you found. I truly believe that, man. There's more good in people than we realize.
I've been surprised to see how many protests there have been that were all white folks.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really, there's like thousands of people walking down the street, and there's not a black soul in the lot. There's like there's like a token guy somewhere, and he's lost. He's like, I don't know where I am. But and they're all holding Black Lives Matter signs, and they're all speaking their minds. I think that's tremendous.
That is huge. I mean, that is beyond. If you look at the civil rights movements and the marches back then, it was almost all black.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? The big national ones, you have some leaders from churches here and there that were white males or whatnot. But now, dude, it's kids, it's teenagers, it's adults, it's grandparents, and they're, like you said, they're predominantly white Americans. And it blows my mind. You look outside of America, you have people in the streets of Paris, in damn New Zealand, Australia.
Right? Yeah, I know. Yeah, in Czech Republic, somebody messaged me from Czech Republic, and they're having protests. They're having Black Lives Matter protests over there for the way that Americans treat black people in America, and it's crazy. I love it. It's it's crazy positive, but
it is. I shed tears when I saw that shit, man. I did. I had a lot of stories growing up from my grandparents and my parents, man. I guarantee you they would have never imagined something like that going global.
No.
I'm serious. It's very heartwarming for me, man. It gets me kind of choked up, to be honest with you. And I have to say, Sean, you can link a lot of that to the international world. You can link a lot of that to hip hop.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. I like that. Interesting.
That was the foundation. That was the whole point of it.
Wow.
Shit, man.
Wow. I like that. I'm gonna steal that from you.
Now, don't get me wrong. You had MLK and doing debates in Oxford and things of that nature. You had James Baldwin and Malcolm X and greats like that. But people just giving a fuck about regular black folks.
Yeah.
Enough that there's global marches. It fucking blows my mind, dude. I swear, it may get me choked up there, man. It's I don't think these kids can understand how touching that is, man.
No.
God almighty.
So, not to. All right. So let me. I'm gonna riff off of this a little bit, but let me segue for a sec, because I'm still the recovering racist. In fact, I think I might even change my website to therecoveringracist.com. It keeps coming up, I
would like to see your analytics if you did that. I would love to see that. love to see that.
It might. I don't know. I'll experiment and see what happens. Why not? www.therecoveringracist.com. Yeah, my podcast would probably blow up after that. But
Yeah, right, it would.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for real.
So let me tell you the part of me that's still down deep inside. It's the same part of me that really, really wants to get wasted on whiskey tonight. It's the same guy. Oh my god. I don't even know if I want to go down this road.
Oh, well, you never know till you get there.
Oh, fuck it. Why not? So there's two things. And this is another hypothesis that I wish that some sociologists would study this. But all right, this is a little bit rude. But I think that there's a relationship between the stereotype of black male endowment and racism.
Interesting.
And I think that's part of the reason why cops walk around with big black sticks to go beat people.
I'm sorry, go ahead, bro. I'm sorry.
Like this, well, because if you look at the cops and stuff like that, you know these guys are like watching porn and they're doing all that kind of stuff. And there are so many videos out there of like white girls just getting annihilated by a room full of black dudes. You know, that's the thing that goes around, and that's got to do something. If you've got like a little tiny white dick, and you see these black dudes around, and they've got access to these like beautiful black women, and you know that they got like these Donkey Kongs in their pants. That's got to do something to your psyche, man. That's got to do a number on you. Even if they don't, even if they're just like regular dudes, you know, that's gonna make you want to kick somebody's ass. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the perception. You know what, dude? I see the connection, and that goes back a long, long way, bro.
Yeah.
That goes back a really long way. Yeah. I guarantee there's still a connection on that, especially since, as you said, you know, you can see it on the internet.
Yeah.
You know.
And people joke about it all the time. You know, people are like, oh, you know, I got like the big black one and whatever. Once you go black, you never go back, and all that kind of thing. And that's all about penis size. And
yeah, which says a lot about the female more than anything else. But yeah.
Well, but even a lot of women have to make excuses, and they're like, no, actually, I don't like one that big. I kind of like, you know, like maybe something that's a little bit above average, or, you know, I don't want to, you know, feel like I'm going to have to, you know, call an undertaker after I have sex because, you know, I'm going to get impaled, you know. But I think it's a male thing, though, you know, and I think that's, anyway. But I think that ties into racism. But I think what I'd like to see a sociologist study is, I believe there's a correlation between penis size and racism. It's like, the smaller your dick is, as a white guy, the more racist you're going to be.
I would dare say that's a psychological field, but yeah. I would love to see that, yeah, because that's perception.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, let's be honest here. Every white dude's not going to go around measuring every black dude's dick. I mean,
No.
It's a perception thing because you don't know unless you actually, you know, right there with them. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's a perception issue. But there's some inadequacies there. But you know, what brings that psychological cognition to fruition in the first place?
Ugh, that gets really deep. And but see that all goes back to, like, you know, access to females and access to food and, you know, all that kind of thing. So that goes like way down into your monkey brain.
Way down there, buddy.
Which could be part of the reason why we this is cool. That might be why there's not as much violence against Asians. So maybe if Asians had the stereotype of being hung, they'd be the ones getting beat up in the streets, you know?
Oh, man.
So
it's a very curious topic. I wonder about that.
Yeah.
I wonder about that.
So there you go. So we just solved the problem. Just start a rumor that Asians are all hung like oxes, and then they'll get their turn, and it'll be fine.
Nah, I don't do that, man. Because you can piss some women off.
Yeah, how could that possibly go wrong? Right.
Like, wait a minute, don't lie to me. Why you lie?
Oh shit. Oh. Okay, but no. Okay, so on a serious note, though.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that I think comes out of this whole thought process that I've had is that, and this is a debate that I've had with my kids, is if you think about, okay, and this is something else that scares the racist, because we see this on a subconscious level, like on a subtle level, we know that this is true, is that if you look at America, or the Western cultures, right, and you think about the not the values, but the aspirations that we have for ourselves as far as achievements in life, like financial achievement or physical appearance or athletic ability or political influence or financial affluence or access to females or access to or philanthropic actions or levels of education, and all those sorts of intangibles that we as humans look at and we aspire to, or we admire people who have achieved those things, right? If you take that entire list and you look at all of the people who have achieved, who either meet or exceed the standards that we set as a society on every single point, all of those people are black.
Interesting.
There isn't a white one on the list.
Shit.
And that's intimidating. And they all have big dicks. but that's not what I'm sorry. I was trying to be serious for a minute and I failed. But you think about like Beyonce and Jay-Z, or you think about Will Smith and Jada, or you think about The Rock or Barack and Michelle, or Oprah. And these are people who, or Shaquille O'Neal, Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, he's got a doctorate in education, and these people, they're good looking, they're athletically superior, they have successful marriages, they have high levels of political influence and access to wealth and philanthropic gestures, and that's threatening.
Really?
To the racist person. There's a person, because especially if you look at the stereotype of the Mrs. Huxtable, where you think,
right,
oh, if I try to approach a black woman, I'm going to get the Mrs. Huxtable, and the highest pinnacles of humans that we've been able to produce are like Beyonce. Then, if you're just like a white dude living in a trailer, and somewhere in a small town in Kentucky, you're gonna feel inferior.
Yeah.
And
I can see that.
And I think the system knows that if we were to eradicate the phrase of because of the color of their skin, then suddenly we'd have a whole lot more Denzels and Beyoncés and you know what I mean? We'd have a lot more Barack Obamas. We'd have those people would naturally start to emerge if they weren't held down at a subconscious level.
That's very true. That's very true.
What do you think of that? But that goes back to why I think we need to eradicate the use of that phrase.
Yeah. So what you willing to eradicate is race in itself, because it shouldn't exist in the first place.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced on that. I'm not.
Race the term race when it relates to skin tone is not scientifically based in the first place, right? So we've already made up a term that makes it easy to split up people that's not even based on science. So that tells me that it's political in nature, and it was created in order to make the separating of quote unquote races even easier, because it's predicated on superficial tendencies rather than the content of one's character, quoting MLK. So that's why I say it goes to what you're saying. What you want to do is get rid of that subconscious ideology of inferiority, when it's already predicated on what somebody looks like. So if we get rid of that terminology that dictates what one looks like as being black or white or this, that, and the third, if we eliminate that, automatically we're already going to take a step toward what you're trying to accomplish, which is getting rid of that subconscious, I'm not this or this person is this because of what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So if we get the terminology right, i.e., you're an American, I'm an American, we're Americans, as opposed to you're a white American, I'm a black American, and our existence has been separated for X, Y, Z reasons. We'll just look at each other as Americans, and we'll have a conversation, and we'll come to realize that either we're cool or we're not. And if we're not, okay, big deal, big fucking deal. All right, go on with your life. It can happen. It is happening, but that's why I always point to terminology and the etymology of words, right? We have to be extremely careful about that shit, because now we're in a world where we can type and hit send and completely disrupt somebody's mind, completely make them go into a state of I don't want to live anymore.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Words are extremely powerful, and people take it for granted because we got video.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sleep on the words, people. Words are extremely powerful.
Yeah.
A picture can tell you 1,000 words, but 1,000 words can give you more detail on the picture. If you know what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you don't waste 1,000 words on a picture, you can make those 1,000 words into absolute literature, something beautiful.
I love the concept that a single word is an infinite concept.
Mm.
Just the word word.
Yeah.
It just like it resonates and kind of flowers, and there's so many. You could write infinite doctoral, dissertations on the meaning of it, the history of it, where it came from, what the and that's just one word, and every single word is infinite.
Exactly.
In its implications.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why, I'm just going to say this. I think that's why human beings get so caught up on, like, twins, right? Who was that lady that had, like, 8 twins or whatever, or not 8 twins.
Oh,
octuplets or whatever.
The octomom, yeah.
Octomom. People got so hung up on that shit. Are you serious? They all came from the same source. They all came from the same source. They all came from the same woman.
Yeah.
But how many different ways can you describe a child with words? As you said, it's infinite.
Yeah.
So which is more powerful? 8 children, or the ability to describe each child individually with words that exist to that child alone?
Oh my God. I need a bag of mushrooms to unpack that.
Words are powerful, my man. Words are extremely powerful.
Yeah. Interesting.
So we get a grasp on linguistics when we're talking to one another as human beings. We're going to overcome a lot of things.
Yeah. And that goes back to education, and that goes back to whitewashing, and that goes back to you know, because of the color of their skin, that, you know, like all that kind of stuff ties into that.
Yes.
So I can see, I can see now why people say, you know, we need to invest in education.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
It really is.
God Almighty.
I recorded this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Man, if you could have heard that conversation I had with LaDonna. Oh man, it was another one. We went on, yeah, the original Silver Fox.
Yeah, I followed her.
We went. We were on like almost 3 hours, and by the end I was like, listen, I gotta go. I think I had to take a week or something like that, and she had to go. But I could have kept going with her, you know. But it was just deep like this. But I feel like, you know, we need to have more of this in the country, you know. So, all right. So here's the part that I wasn't gonna put out there in the recording, but whatever. Fuck it. I mean, I already talked about cops being jealous of dick size, so I'll go down.
I think we already stepped up. Go ahead, man.
So here's a crazy idea that I'm trying to do, and I'm looking for help because I'm an idea man, you know, and I'm good at execution to a point, but then I get a new idea and I get distracted, and I've been trying to start a nonprofit for the last several years, and I keep kind of getting there, but then not really, but then But I think it's time for me to get serious about this, because especially since I've had this whole COVID thing and like working from home, and you know, I started going back to work last week, and dude, being in the office is unspeakable torture now. Like, I am not doing that shit for very long. So hell no. I gotta find like, yeah, so shit just got real in Sean's world. So, but what I'm trying to do is I would like to get like a podcast going, and I like to get my nonprofit going. So, I'm looking for people who would be willing to partner with me to get it going. You know, to have like a regular podcast and say, hey, let's have these deep conversations. Let's do this kind of stuff. Let's, you know, start out badly, but let's start. And, you know, so I approached the Silver Fox. I haven't heard back from her yet, but, you know, she's indicated in other things that she'd be down to help out with, you know, something like that. But I'd love to get somebody like you on my team too, and just say, hey, let's work on this organization and build it up. But let me tell you what the organization is first.
Okay.
So it's called OHM Projects. And the OHM stands for the 100th Monkey.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that concept, the 100th Monkey? Okay, so you know that the Dr. Seuss story with like the Who's down in Whoville? Horton Hears a Who.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so it's kind of that same concept, where the 100th monkey is. Okay, let me back up a little bit. So I think it was early after they started doing nuclear testing in the islands out there in the Pacific. There were some monkeys who were adversely affected because their food supplies got interrupted. And I may be remembering this story a little bit wrong, but basically they started like dropping off sweet potatoes to these monkeys, but they were just like drop them on the beach, and but they would get covered with sand, so the monkeys didn't want to eat them. So a couple folks went down and taught the monkeys how to wash off the sweet potatoes, so that they could, you know, wash them off and have food. And what they found is that the younger ones the younger ones picked it up more quickly. And then the younger ones would take that skill and teach it to the older ones. And then it got to a point where like all the monkeys on this island started practicing this. But what they noticed is that other monkeys on other islands who hadn't been taught that skill started doing it also.
What?
Yes. So they ran a whole bunch of crazy tests on humans also and found out that this is in fact a universal principle, that once an idea gets ingrained into a population, it sort of blossoms out across the whole rest of the population, even among people who have no interaction with each other.
Shit.
Yeah. It's a crazy thing. So I'm calling my nonprofit OHM Projects because that is my goal, is to have conversations like this where I'm trying to find that last little who down in Whoville. You know, I'm trying to find that 100th monkey who's going to tip us over the edge towards love and tolerance and, you know, peace and restructuring and, you know, adulthood and all those characteristics that we all know that we need, and we all know that we're not perfect, but collectively we can get there. So that's the mission of my nonprofit. And the only thing that I'm doing right now is, like, I got a couple book projects that I'm working on. I've got this podcast. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel. I'm trying to do that kind of stuff. But I'm a one-man band, and it's going to take me a dog's age, you know, to do this. And so that's why I'd like to have somebody like you know, because you've got more technical expertise, you've got the voice, you've got the networking, you've got this other kind of thing. But more importantly than that is that you've got the Black perspective, which I don't have. And like I was saying to Silver Fox, is that I know enough to know I've got massive blind spots, and I would love to be able to have like a Black female perspective right at the foundation of this thing, to point out the blind spots and say, you know, we're not doing that, or you need to think about this or whatever, and start to build it up. So
let's do it.
You down?
Hell yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I've got more proposals. We can talk more about that offline, but one of the first things I'm trying to do right now, and I've been trying to do this for a while, and I've gotten zero traction, so maybe you can help. But I'm a big supporter of World Vision. Are you familiar with them?
Not really, but I've heard of them.
Okay, it's one of these places where, you know, they help people in developing countries. So if you want to, like, adopt a kid, you know, like pay for some kid's education in Africa or, you know, Sri Lanka or whatever, then you can do that. They support missions, they do all this kind of thing. And so I've been supporting World Vision for a long time, and I do things like, if I have a little extra money that I want to give, then you can go on and you can buy like a goat. You can just buy a goat, and then World Vision will take that goat and go give it to a family so they can have the goat and milk it and sell the milk and do that kind of thing. Or you can buy a family. One of the ones I supported a few years ago was in southwestern India, where the monsoons come through real bad. They were trying to get people to start raising ducks instead of chickens.
So they can survive the floods.
Yeah, because ducks float. So
Really?
yeah, so I supported that. I'm like, I'll give money to that. Let's, you know, but people didn't have money to go buy ducks, so they would just keep buying chickens, and every time the monsoon came, all their chickens were gone.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, so I'll support that. So I started giving some money to that. But my thing is that, like, I can only give so much, and but what I want to do is, and I think this is the most important thing that we can do right now, is donate money to World Vision, to a program that they have that digs wells in developing countries. And
I dig it.
yeah, the reason is that, like, there's a lot of young girls, and it's almost always young girls, who spend, you know, 8 or 9 hours a day, and their sole purpose in life is to go and walk and get water for their family. And that means they're not getting an education, which means that they're probably going to have more kids, which means that, you know, it turns into that whole crazy cycle. So this is one of the first things that I'm trying to raise money for, is to say, hey, let's start, let's raise money. So I've got like a Patreon page, and I've got all this kind of stuff set up to start bringing funds in, so that we can start, digging wells in countries like that, And
Love it.
yeah, so if you're down, I'll send you some proposals, and I'll, talk about it. I'm not that smart on how nonprofits work. Like I said, I'm an idea guy, so
Right.
and I'm one little voice, but that's why I need somebody like the Silver Fox, because I like the way that she thinks, and I like the way that you think, and if you can think it, I'd like to put together like a, what do they call it? Not a mind team. What's the word I'm looking for? A mastermind group.
Mastermind group. Yeah. I'm a part of one here locally.
Yeah, of like a half a dozen people or so, and say, hey, let's build this up.
There's 10 of them.
Yeah, and let's say, hey, let's build this up, and if there are some profits and proceeds, then I guess that's how nonprofits work. Is that if you commit yourself full time to it, then you can get, you can generate some revenue from that. I don't mind a little bit, but I think most of it has to go towards, these causes. So, but that's a whole. I know nothing about how any of that kind of stuff works. So.
And me neither, really, but I know people that ask. That's for sure.
Yeah. See, I don't even know that, so that's good. So I'm already ahead just for talking to you about it. Saving the world, man. That's what we do.
Well, damn it, this is the only place we have to live, so why not?
Yeah, exactly. This is the only one we got. So, anyway. So on that note, I'm gonna get going.
All right, Chief.
Yeah, so it's an hour and 40 minutes. That's not bad.
No, I get every bit of it.
Yeah, so did I.
Woo-hoo!
So,
Yeah.
all right. So I guess if this one had failed, I was gonna throw in the towel. And you're like, nope. It's either third time's a charm or 3 strikes and you're out. So.
I know.
We'll see.
Good deal. I appreciate you, Sean.
Hey man, I really appreciate your time.
No problem. We'll do this again.
Yeah, we need to, and we gotta get together sometime too. I don't know how that would work.
It will.
I need maybe in the wintertime. I like that. Cause
Well, I know you.
Yeah, when it's-
get out of Pennsylvania, that's what they're sure. Where are you? Pennsylvania, right?
I'm in New Jersey.
Jersey. That's right. Yeah. I know you want to get out the north.
Yeah, so when it's cold and shitty, I'll come down and see you.
That's what's up.
And if you want to, you can come on up here. I'll take you down to the store. I'll show you what real pizza tastes like.
Oh, buddy.
Because I know you guys don't have real pizza down there. You think you do, but you trust me, you don't.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Have you had a Chicago deep dish before?
Yeah, I'm not a. It's more like a pizza soup. It's like soup in a bread bowl, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. I like my crust like chewy and thin and like a little bit crisp, That's what. Yeah, that's why I moved to New Jersey. I think the women are better looking here, and the pizza is better. So.
Man, you got good looking girls and pies. That's what's up. That's what's up.
You gotta have your priorities right, man. You gotta have your priorities right.
Do you, bro?
All right, man. Hey, thanks a lot for your time. And I'll be in touch. I think I got your number. I got your number. I'll shoot you a text or something like that once in a while. I'll send you some bad jokes or something like that just to stay in touch.
Feel free. Likewise.
All right. Hey, I'll talk to you later, Tim.
All right, Sean. Thanks, bud.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed talking to it. And Tim's he's such a great guy. Anyway, if you would like to support any of the things that we talked about, by all means, you can go to my website, and there's links to my Patreon account there. My website is www.seanmurdochtalks.com. That's SeanMurdocktalks.com, and you can find I'll link to the podcast version of this over there if you're watching this on YouTube. Or you can look me up on my YouTube channel under Sean Helkerson. So, but yeah, please do feel free to support those things, and yeah, spread the word around. So, and keep coming back, because I've got a lot more awesome conversations like this coming up. If you're a TikToker, if you're familiar with the work of the original Silver Fox, I've been talking to her a lot. I've got some other interviews lined up. So, yeah, keep coming back. There's going to be some pretty cool stuff coming your way. So, love you. Thanks for your time, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.